Hey everyone, I am back with another DIY video and we are diving into some new products that Aunt Bee's Attic has sent me. You all, I love these new papers. It's a new paper line. You will get more information as I do the voiceover on this video. So head on over to Aunt Bee's Attic. Use the link in the description box below. It does give me a little incentive to help make these videos. I do appreciate all of you all out there. Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel, hitting that like button, and watching my videos. So let's get on into this video. These papers coming up, and this video screams cottagecore to me. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below. Cottagecore seems to be really on the forefront, and artwork is taking the place of all of those signs out there. So let me know in the comments below what you think of the new styles coming up, including some of the ones I'm showing in this video. I love cottagecore personally, and dark and moody, you all know that. Tell me which one is your favorite, cottagecore or dark and moody. Now let's get on to these beautiful papers. All right, you all, so let's talk about these papers. These are a new design by Autumn Sage Creations. They were sent to me exclusively by Aunt Bee's Attic so that I could make some projects for you all for the release. There are 6 designs by Autumn Sage Creations on Aunt Bee's Attic webpage or website. I will have the link in the description box below for these papers. They're amazing. They decoupage beautifully. They are under the category of decoupage, but like I said, I'll have the link so you don't have to look for them. This first design, I just showed you it, but I'm going to show you again. It's called Botanical Journal Blocks. Now this piece is beautiful. It has a lot of ferns. It has a lot of vintage vibe to it. You can definitely use this in the dark and moody style along with the cottage core. I love how some of these look like journaling pages, some of these look like book covers, but they can also be used on small items, home decor. Really, there is a lot of images here to be used in separate decor items, but you could also use this all together as well. This next design is called Birdie Darling. I love the very shabby chic. You'll see how I use the birds to actually make it dark and moody. But there is definitely some different vibes going on in that one. Even the chippy paint could be used in maybe an industrial farmhouse style. Now I love this one. It has a cottage core feel to it. It also has the toile. It has the artwork, the landscape artwork that's really popular right now. So I feel like she really hit the mark on this piece. You'll see how I use this as well. The next design is an ephemera journal. So you can see here that there are labels, there's text, there's months, there's dates. Also, there is journaling space, just lots of places if you wanted to use this for a journal. But also, this can be used in home decor as well. And you'll see, again, I'm going to be using some of these pieces. Now we have what's called Fern Valley. It has quite a bit of ferns. It's got some framing. It also has some eucalyptus on it. Very beautiful piece. I think this would be wonderful used on a large piece of furniture, but you could also cut out some of these and use on smalls. And the last design is called Blue Countryside. I'm sorry, I forgot to open that up, but I was showing you a photo there. Now, don't forget Aunt Bee's Attic does have $9 flat rate shipping on all orders. Alright, so this first project is one of those Christmas wall pockets. I've already started painting the edge of this and the handle black. I'm using coal black infusion, so I don't want to have to seal it, and I'm not going to distress this back because there's this red under there. Now, because I'm going to use some of the new decoupage paper, I'm loving that this is already white, so I'm going to use some white to cover up the holly berries. I'm going to be using casement infusion to do that. And I do go ahead, I think I put 2 coats just back to back. I go ahead and do one and then go back in and do the other, and that way it does cover them pretty much so that you won't be able to see them through the paper. To start off this wonderful decoupage journey that I'm doing with this video, I'm starting off with the Botanical Journal blocks. I pulled the rose out of there because I just loved how beautiful it is with all the greens. Yeah, I'm still loving on the greens. So what I'm doing is I'm just tearing off some of the edges so it's not so harsh, so it'll blend in a little bit when I use some other mediums around it to make it kind of blend in with this. Now to attach this to this wall pocket, you can use Mod Podge, you can use liquid patina, you can use glue. There's lots of ways. I'm using the Paint Couture Decoupage Medium, and I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. I went ahead and cut that top off of there, and I'm just going to, like I said, put some of the decoupage medium underneath of it and use a little piece of plastic I had laying around. It's like kind of like saran wrap. I think the saran wrap method is awesome, so I'm just going to use that to smooth it on down. What I'm going to do to make this blend better, or to make this piece blend in better, I'm trying to mix up some paints that I think will be similar to the color of the decoupage paper. This is a couple different colors of the fusion paints in, I think it's Belmont and French Eggshell. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll have those in the description box below. Aunt Bee's Attic also carries fusion paint. She also has the brand new 7 colors that just came out. I've not used those yet in a video, but I will be using them and let you all know how much I like them. So I'm just kind of adding this as I mix it and tap it onto that near the paper to see kind of how it looks. Once I got it to the color I like, I just went ahead and put it down both sides. Now I will tell you that once this dried, it was not quite the color I thought, but I love how it turned out, and I didn't go back and repaint it or try for a different color. Now I'm just sanding those edges off because I waited to paint the sides after the decoupage paper dried thoroughly, and now I'm just kind of blending in with that decoupage paper. Don't be scared to add paint on top of your paper or other mediums, even things like molds or salt wash, to blend this in, because it usually turns out very, very beautiful. It doesn't seem like it at first, but I promise if you keep going and don't just give up, it will turn out gorgeous. I am drying this some to kind of see how it's going to look around this paper while it's dried a little bit, and that way if I want to add more paint to it in certain areas, I'll be able to do that because it's dried and the consistency. I am looking at this and I don't know what's going on with my light, you all. I know what it is. Every time I turn my hand or my drying tool on, my light above flickers. I have told my husband, he has a lot of electrical experience, and he's like, it's fine. So, sorry about the flickering in the video. All right, so I'm putting the second coat on, and like I said, blending those edges in, just kind of shadowing that or giving a vignette around it to give it a look that just looks good to me. Once this dries, we are going to be using one of the IOD texture type stamps on here. I'm not sure what the name of this one is. I think it is Textures, but I'll have that linked in the description box below as well. We're going to be using this. It's like a crackle stamp, the larger crackle, and some olive green stays on ink. I love this olive green color. It's so beautiful, and it just really ties in those leaves there with this color. And then we are going to finish this off with some scripting. I have several stamps. Some of them I've removed from blocks that are smaller scripting. I have the Kindest Regards IOD stamp, but I really wanted to use a smaller font, so I pulled out one of my, I think, like I said, it's been removed from a block, this script, and I'm going to use it on here to finish this piece off with the same color of the, I am using StazOn in black. That's right, because I wanted to tie in the black on the handle and on the edge of this piece. So let me know what y'all think about this one. And also don't forget that the photos of all of these finished projects will be at the end of the video. Oh, did I tell you all we were going to be trying some new techniques? So this faux cement terracotta greeny pinky look is really hot right now, and I'm going to drop a couple pictures in right here to let you all see the look that I'm kind of going for. Now let me know after looking at these, and once we kind of get what I'm going to show you here, what you all think about this look. it's kind of an aged texture look with a hint of pink and a hint of a textury moss. So what I'm doing is I've mixed a couple of just acrylic paints together that I have. I had these colors. I'm trying to use up some of my older paints. So we're putting just on things, especially when I'm experimenting. I call it a light terracotta color on here. I'm going to let that dry just a little bit, and then I'm going to go back in with some of that original pink just to brush it on the top layer, but not necessarily all over the bird. Because what I want to do is, once I cover this some more to get that mossy look, I want some of that pink to show back through. So it's almost like dry brushing, but I will tell you the bird was not dry, so some of the terracotta mixed in, which was perfect. And then we're going to add some salt wash because we want a little bit of texture. So I just started by adding it just on top of the bird, especially where it was already wet, to give it that texture. And I'm not sure if I mix it in with the paint, but you could. Like, I could have done that in the beginning. So I'm just taking that wet paintbrush and just adding more of that pink and getting that salt wash mixed in there to get it and give it a little bit of a powder too. I even take my hand and just kind of rub that powder all over the bird. This next step is a mixture of DIY paints in Apothecary, Aviary, and Crinoline. Once I put this on the bird, I do realize later on that I probably should have added another green color to this. I do love how this turns out. You guys will have to let me know in the comment section below what you think about it. What I'm doing here is not completely covering the bird. I want some of that pink to show through, and I want some of that terracotta to show through. I feel like I should have added a little bit more of a brighter green maybe, or a darker green, like stippled some of that on, maybe near the bottom, maybe near the top, where it looks like moss is changing colors. You all have to let me know in the comment section. I really do love how this turned out, and wait till you see the project that I do with this, the main project that I do with this coming up. This next project is a box that I already started. I painted it a green color. I think it was one of the DIY paints, and then I just stuck it back in my stash. We're going to use this for one of the decoupage paper, the fronts. I am adding the white casement on the front of this, and I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to use that beautiful birdie images on the front of this. We are going to do the same thing. We're going to use the decoupage paper with the decoupage medium underneath of it. While I'm doing this, I do make a mistake. I mess too much with my paper. I pull it up and replace it, and then I end up with a hole. And I rub too hard because I just kept fooling with this. I don't know why, but I end up rubbing too hard with this. I just had this little baggie here. I've been using it. I just didn't want to get up and go get any saran wrap, which was ridiculous. But anyways, you'll see how I end up fixing this, and it turns out better than what I would have thought. It's so funny how, you know, our mistakes sometimes, not all the time, can turn out better than what we had planned with in the beginning. But just stay tuned and see how I fix this hole that I made on the front of this. Now that my piece is thoroughly dried, I'm just taking a sandpaper and just sanding the edges to get that paper off. Alright, so remember the little hole? I'm taking a piece from the ephemeral decoupage, the new ephemeral paper decoupage, and I'm going to use that green 60s label there. I'm just going to cut it and just paste it right over, or I'm going to tear it, I'm sorry, and paste it right over top of that little hole using the decoupage medium, and then seal it in. I'm not going to use the knob that came on this box. I'm going to go ahead and finding a knob that I think I really want on here that's going to give it a different look, and maybe something that you can't just buy in a store. So I'm just poking through my decoupage paper and doing a little audition with some of these. I do end up going with one of the green, I think it's a water spout knob, and I love how it turns out. It just really complements the 60 sign, and you can still see the bird through it. So I just used a screw, put that on there, and then I painted the screw a green to match the color. Now you could leave that silver, either way it looks really good. I decided the box was a little bit too light for my taste, so I'm going to use this sample of the new Paint Couture Black Chiffon Glaze. This medium really ties in this piece because what it does is it gives those black birds a little bit of grounding color, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do like a vignette around, frame around the birds with this black glaze. I do kind of wipe some of it off. I don't like to go in full force when I'm doing something. I'm going to go ahead and go around all these edges, and then I'm going to round the corners off, and then just go around the whole box on the outside and on the edges. I don't do the inside. I don't feel like that's necessary. But this little box, I just love how it turns out, and I am keeping this one in my collection, or at least in my home decor for a while. And I'll show you a photo of that at the end of the video as well, where this box ended up at, along with another part of this project. I am also using a baby wipe to do this. It does help wipe some of that back, but once you get it on the paint, it does stay on there. Not all of it if you wipe it back. But the point is, the baby wipe just kind of helps blend it in, and you can't wipe all of this away with a baby wipe. It sticks to the color and totally changes the color or the hue of that color. Okay, so remember the project I said I originally mixed the paint for? It is this piece. So I found this piece for $1.99, which was, of course, I thought was ridiculous. But I love the actual structure of it. I love the terracotta pot. I love that there's moss on it. And then I love that there are, or I think that's 2 different wreaths that's attached. Now this had a Michael sticker on it, so I don't know if this came like this, but I love the whole setup of it, and I figured for $2 I could turn this into something amazing. So I took all of that nasty foliage out of there, and I'm going to add some things back in. You'll see coming up, but we're going to use this terracotta pot for that same technique that we did earlier to give it that faux mossy look. Now when I paint this one, I am doing this one just a tad bit different. I am not going to put as much paint on, and I'm going to use a baby wipe or a paper towel to help wipe some of the paint back. This was where my paint mixing was being tested before I figured out the exact color I wanted. It's so funny, once you mix paint and then you put it on terracotta, to me it looks like a totally different color than what the paint mixture is. And I felt like for this to be mossy, it needed to have a warmer tone to it, so that's where the crinoline came in. But I did not stop there. So again, I tried this on the pot and I still didn't like the color. I ended up adding some sandy blonde, which I did forget about to mention earlier with the bird. Like I said, I did this a little backwards, and I do apologize. Generally, I have everything in a perfect line, but today it just didn't end up that way with the recording. So you'll see I add some sandy blonde in here to get the color I wanted. I wanted to leave this in so you all could see that, which I always tell you all that I'm experimenting, and we always have a good time with it. But I did want to leave this in here to show you that it does take a hot minute sometimes for creators, even on YouTube, to come up with the colors that they want, just like you guys at home. Now that we have that paint color the way we want it, we're going to go ahead and start adding some of that salt wash in to give a little bit of grit, a little bit of texture, and a little bit of powder look to it. This piece is going to be going into a cloche. We are going to be creating a cool looking cloche. I'm excited for you guys to see it. So I have this piece that was left over from something, I think a house clean out that we did. So we're going to use that as a part of the cloche. What I'm doing now is I actually pulled these back off of the pieces that we pulled out, I think. And I'm going to use these to kind of go around this little wood carved bird. The bird is going to be our focal point for this pot/wreath mixture, which now that I've seen this, I am so excited about future makes. I can add 2 wreaths together and some moss on top of a terracotta pot and call it a day. All right, so I'm going to add some moss in here of my own to help build this little bird up. To make this cloche complete or on a riser, I'm going to use that wood candlestick that I just showed you.
and we're going to add this wood round. This is a wood round from Walmart, and I'm going to be sanding the edges of this because it is a little bit rough when you do purchase these. We're going to be using DIY's Dark and Decrepit to stain this, along with some of that same terracotta sort of colored acrylic paint to give it more of a orangey tone, dark and orangey tone to match the candlestick. I don't actually add the other color until I attach this to the candlestick and realize it does have an orange undertone. So what I'm doing here is I should have just left this plain, but I'm going to go ahead and sand this center so that the wood will stick to the wood candlestick better. I'm going to be using some Tite Bond wood glue and some hot glue just as a temporary hold. This is where I come in with that acrylic paint, and what I end up doing is mixing some of this with the liquid patina, because it's very bright orange and the undertones in this candlestick is orange or this terracotta sort of color, maybe more of a pumpkin spice color. So I wanted it to not be so bright, and then I added water to it as well to tone it down because it's acrylic paint. So it has a opaque consistency, whereas the liquid patina has more of a see-through consistency, if that makes sense. So we want this to tone back, and we also want it to be see-through. To help this keep a see-through or stain-like look, I'm going to go ahead and add some water to it as I'm adding it to this piece. Once this dries, then we'll go back and we'll add some of that Dark and Decrepit to tone it back more and make sure that that orange is an undertone of the brown versus it being on the very top. Let me know what you think in the comments below if this ends up matching better. What's so funny about this is coming up, we end up covering this whole piece, but I did not know that at the time. While that's drying, we're going to go ahead and work on some of the inside of this piece. I'm going to be adding some of things that I have in my stash, such as these pip berries. I'm just going to pull them off of this and have them kind of stick up taller into the top part of the cloche. And add some pieces in with this little bird. I'm going to be using some hot glue where it's needed to make sure that these kind of stay in place and don't fall if this piece is moved. And I'll tell you a little story about this piece at the end. When I was looking at some inspiration on Pinterest, I found a cloche that had, I think it was a bunny in it maybe, but it had a piece of rolled up music. So we're going to do that for this one. We're going to get some of my older music paper and we're going to roll it up and make it fit in this piece. Once I found the music paper and got it rolled up kind of to the size I wanted, I just used my scissors to trim it back. I'm going to go ahead and use some of this twine to tie it in the center to make it look kind of like a scroll. And we will be using some hot glue to make it stay in place inside of the little bird nest. We're going to go back to working on this little mossy looking pot. And now that my paint is dry, it's very light compared to what I really want it to be. It still gives a mossy effect, but this is where the dark wax comes in to give it that kind of dirty look, like it's been aged for a long time. So what I'm doing is just putting a little bit on there with a chip brush and then using an old rag to kind of smooth it in to that paint. And it really does help give it that mossy look. Don't forget, all of the project's photos and up-close photos will be at the end of this video. So this had some kind of like brown moss on it, but I really wanted to add some of this green moss to it. So I started putting it kind of over top of the brown moss, but not completely covering it up. And then I thought, how about if we leave some of this hanging off and then glue some kind of to the edge in the outer area like it's falling down the pot and got stuck. Okay, so the next step of this is where we change up that wood base. So I found this Christmas sign that looks like one of those old tin pie pans, and I knew I wanted to use the tin pie pan part of it, so I just took the screws out of the word Noel, took that off, and took these little hooks off of it so that it could fit on top of my wood round. I use the same method with this. I use the triple thick glue, Titebond glue, and I use hot glue to secure it. I'm just kind of showing you here what it's going to look like once we put it all together, and wait till you see the photos. This next project is a box that I had already painted Manor green, and then I painted the top of it that casement color. Now I'm going to use this beautiful, I don't know what flower this is, but it came from the journal decoupage, and it looks kind of like a book cover, so I thought I would put this on my box. Now, after I did this, and I'm using the same method that we do with the decoupage, after I did this, I realized I probably should have centered this and then painted a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, but you know what? I didn't, so I'm not going to stress about it. And this piece was fairly easy. It was just a little bit of paint and a little bit of decoupage paper to give a whole different look to just a plain box. Now we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we're going to sand those edges to get all that excess paper off so that it gives it a smooth look without those rough edges. I just want to mention, if you guys haven't went over to my Facebook page and liked it or followed me, go ahead and go over there and do that. I do post content on there every single day, and I give inspiration, and I also get inspiration from you all. So go on over there and post some of the projects that you're making and let me see what inspirations you're getting, and let me know where you're getting them from, because I am in the same place you all are. I get inspiration from other people. The Facebook page is Cozy Junk Studio, along with my Instagram page. I've also been posting daily on those. So Cozy Junk Studio on Instagram and on Facebook. Now I'm just taking some of that Manor green and going across the top of that. It will blend in with the back color, and you'll see how I'm going to make it blend in with this aged looking paper. I go ahead and add some of that Manor green along the edges as well as the bottom to again blend this whole piece in together. To finish this piece off, we're going to go ahead and add an antique latch here on the front of this. They're very reasonable at Hobby Lobby. I think you get a couple for 99 cents. Once I get that on, I'm going to go ahead and go to the pieces on the back and inside that are the hinges, along with the outer edges, to make this piece look more cohesive and match that antique latch. This next project was so easy, you all. I had this adorable frame, which was almost square, and it was almost the exact size of the cutout from the Country Lane decoupage. So I decided to use that in this really, it's kind of like a maybe 1980s frame, but it just worked out perfect. Now I didn't use a decoupage medium for this. I really just took some glue and rubbed it on the cardboard and then pasted that decoupage paper on top of that glue, and it held just fine for this project. I did end up trimming around the edges once I got it completely glued on there. And this piece is currently hanging in my kitchen. I am in love. So this last project is more of an honorable mention with some instructions. I had a black journal that was blank in my stash, so I pulled it out. I painted the front cover and the back cover. I think even the edge of it with that casement white. It did not do anything to the cover. It didn't warp it. It dried perfectly. I decoupaged like I always do, the same way on the front, side, and back with part of the botanical journal that is similar to the box that I just showed you. It just looked like it needed to go on a book. So I did that, and then I'm going to take this sandpaper, sand all the edges because we've let it dry. That's the main thing. You can see the white on the edges there. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint those edges. We're going to use Fusion's French eggshell. What that does is it's going to blend all of those edges and all the three pieces of paper in together. I kind of like to go around all the edges just to kind of shadow them and make it just look like one piece. All right, the next piece we're going to do to this is there are two images, and I pulled one of them off of the botanical journal, and it's this beautiful lady. We're going to center her right in the front of this journal page, just so that it looks like she's a focal point. We're going to seal the whole front of this, as we did the rest, with this decoupage medium. So let me know what you think about this journal. Would you use these papers on something like this? Once this does dry, which I did not get in the video, I do go ahead and use some of that beautiful black chiffon glaze on the corners and around this. You'll see in the photos the difference that it makes. Now on to those photos. The first photo is this beautiful close. You all, I'm in love with this. I added the beads and I thought that just really made it beautiful. This is the rose wall pocket. Here is the book box. Look at that piece. I love that. It's an instant piece of art. Here is the little box that we made with the faucet knob. Here is our faux terracotta moss bird with our journal underneath it. And here is the vignette all together. Now you all have to let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite. Here are the photos of the pieces in my office that I kept. You might also recognize a couple other pieces that we've made together on this channel. I kept the bird box and I kept the book box for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.